Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Be a Boss Coaching Podcast. In this episode, I interview Ruby Mora. Ruby Mora is the founder of Blueprint CX. Blueprint CX specializes in helping small businesses, startups, and corporate support operation teams optimize and enhance their customer experience. With over a decade of experience in customer service and operations, she is an empathic, data-driven CCXP certified customer experience strategist and servant operations leader. Having been one of the earliest operations employees of a hyper-growth startup, she played key roles in shaping, scaling, and optimizing various call center departments and functions. In addition to leading Blueprint CX, Ruby currently works for a tech startup managing the support customer experience of a specific customer group. Ruby is passionate about crafting exceptional customer journeys and helping businesses build strong, loyal relationships with their customers. I'm so excited for you to learn more about Ruby, understand customer experience, and know how you can employ your customer experience into your overall business strategy. Enjoy the show. Hey, y'all, and welcome to season 3 of the Be a Boss Coaching Podcast. My name is Beatriz. I'm a business and entrepreneur coach, and I'm the founder of Be a Boss Coaching. In this podcast season, I am thrilled to have a brand new lineup of guests from diverse fields, each bringing their own unique products and services to the table. Not only are we featuring inspiring business entrepreneurs and their stories, but we'll also dive into the skills and innovations that are integral in building a thriving business. Get ready for topics that are essential for your entrepreneurial journey. In this season, we'll cover everything from healing to AI to creativity to building a private practice. Stay tuned and don't forget to visit beabosscoaching.com where you can read our other blogs, listen to our other podcast episodes, and join our newsletter where you'll find out about new services and offers and exclusive discounts and so much more. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you enjoy the show. All right, so we are officially recording. I am so excited. Thank you so much, Ruby, for agreeing to come onto the Be a Boss Coaching Podcast. I have had such a lovely time working with you, and I'm sure we'll get into it and talking about our work together and what we've done so far. I still plan to work with you, and but to get us going into the conversation, I'd like you to introduce yourself and then we can just get started. Tell us a little bit about you and we'll we'll take it from there.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for having me. And I've also loved working with you. So it's been such a great experience being able to support your business. And yeah, happy to continue working together and excited to see where this continues to go. Um, so I guess just to start, I'm Ruby Mora. I am a customer experience professional and consultant. I am the founder of Blueprint CX, which is a customer experience and operations consultancy that's focused on helping small businesses and startups in upleveling their customer experience and streamlining their business operations. And I guess just a little bit about me. Outside of that, I have a pet rabbit. His name is Dewey, and I like
So cute.
meditating, thrift shopping, spending time outdoors. So that's just a little bit about me.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you told us that because I was going to ask you if you could share anything that maybe you haven't shared before that you'd like listeners to know. So that's really cool. So I didn't know you had a pet rabbit. You said his name is Dewey.
Yes, and he is
Oh my
9.
God, so cute. He's 9.
Mhm.
Wow. Oh my God. That's a very long time to have a rabbit. I remember I had a rabbit for a really brief time and he ran away.
Oh,
Yeah, I was really young. I was, I don't know, probably 14 or something. That is so cute. But and then you also said you like thrifting.
mhm. Yes, one of my
Thrifting.
favorite stores. I don't know if it's, uh I don't know exactly where the others are located, but there's a store called Savers here that I really like to go to. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just one of my favorite things to do. Like, a lot of what I wear is thrifted just because I don't know, there's something about, like, finding things that other people have worn, whereas, like, if you go into the store, it's like they're all the same pieces, and it just feels special.
Mhm. Yeah, I hear you. I love thrifting too. I have a shoe repair shop with my dad, and because of that, because he's a great re- he it's not just shoes, it's shoes, bags, belts, things like that. But
Mhm.
usually when I go to a thrift store, I go straight to the shoes and the bags because I know if I find something I like, I can for sure 100% fix whatever's wrong with it. And so I like knowing that I have a dad who can do that, but it just makes thrifting so much more enjoyable. But also like finding unique pieces and clothes that you would never find anywhere
Mhm.
else. So yeah, totally get that for sure. Well, thank you for sharing. You said you love meditating too, right? You said meditating?
Yes, I do a lot of meditation, just like mindfulness practices. And then I also like doing EFT, which is like the tapping meditations.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just something I've been doing for a while. I feel like it helps a lot with like everything, having your
Yeah.
mindset and being able to be in control of your actions and your emotions. I feel like that's just helped me a lot. So it's something that I practice on a daily basis.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I'm curious, and so just for listeners who are tuning in, I've been working with Ruby, but I what I'm really excited about talking to you about today, Ruby, is just getting to know you as a person, and I know we'll talk about customer experience and why that is so valuable in business. But I was more looking forward to getting to know more of you and getting to see who Ruby is. So, can you tell us uh, first how you got into customer experience? But if you can take it back to even maybe before you got into customer experience, what was something that maybe was indicative of the fact that you might be going into customer experience? Or, I mean, tell me more a little bit like, where
Mhm.
did you go to school? And did you go to school for customer experience? That's my other question too.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess um, there wasn't really something that was an indicator. I mean, I did in before graduating college and before getting a full-time job, I did always work in customer service roles and I always really liked it because I feel like you just have these experiences with people that are so brief and they're so mundane, but like in that experience, you have the chance to make someone's day. And that always felt really nice to me that like doing something really small could just like make somebody's day better. And so that always made me really happy. And it was something that I liked. So I guess in a sense, I always knew that it was something that I enjoyed and was good at. But I actually, when I went to school, that's not originally what I had gone in for. So I went to UC Berkeley. Originally, I went in with a focus on biology, and I did that for a little bit, and then ended up switching my major over to American Studies because by being there and just getting a lot of additional information on the way that our societal structures impact people and the way that the country is run just through the extra classes that I took that were, the extracurriculars to my major. I
Yeah.
just realized that there was so much that I didn't understand before about how we're also impacted by all of these things that we kind of just take for
Mm.
granted. And so um, I went into American Studies and I was thinking at that point that maybe I would do something in public policy or something like that.
Mhm.
But then when I graduated, I ended up just getting a job just because I needed a job. And it wasn't specifically in what I thought I was going to do, but it was just something that it was like an entry level position that I was able to do. And um, ultimately, that position wasn't a good fit because I was having to commute a lot and it didn't pay very well. So I ended up leaving and starting at the company where I grew into a customer experience position. So it kind of just happened because I
Mhm.
started in an entry level role. So at that new company, I started as a customer service agent. And again, it was something that I was looking at as at first just a job like just a job to have while I was still figuring out exactly what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. But I realized while I was there how happy it made me to be interacting with customers because, again, I'd always really liked that. But when you're a customer service agent, it's a lot more fast paced. So you're doing it constantly. And me being an introvert, I feel like I always would get in just normal social interactions day to day, I would be kind of closed
Yeah.
off, and so I wasn't having all of these like really great interactions with strangers. But then when I was like on the phone with customers, it was like very nice moments of people being friendly and happy and getting to make them feel good. So I just really loved that job, and so I continued to
Mm.
stay in it. And it was when I started, it was a very small startup, so it grew very quickly while I was there. And being on the customer service team, I got to actually build out a lot of the different procedures and structures and functions and set the standards for what the customer service was supposed to be like. And so I continued to take on more and more there, and then grew into a role where my focus was primarily on operational optimization and customer experience. So yeah, it wasn't originally the plan, but it kinda just happened. I went into something, giving it my all, and I ended up finding something that I really loved. And while I was there growing at that company, there were opportunities to branch out into different areas of the company. And of course, I could have, left to go to another company as well or like switch careers, but I just enjoyed it so much that I didn't want to work anywhere else. Like, I didn't see myself working
Mm.
in any other part of the company and just wanted to continue to build out that experience because especially when you're working at a startup, you get to really see your impact. And so I
Mhm.
could see directly how the things that I was doing and what I was working on were directly impacting customers and at a large scale at one point. So it was just really exciting, and it kept me feeling motivated and engaged. And so I continued to work on that. And
Yeah.
then after about 5 years at the company, I ended up getting really sick. I got long COVID, so I had to take some time off to recover. And as I started getting better, I decided to take on a consulting client, which then led me to starting Blueprint CX. And now
Mm.
we're here. I have Blueprint. I have some clients. I'm working with you, and then am also still working full time at a different company now in customer experience. So it wasn't the plan, but it's something that I really enjoy. That makes me happy. So uh, yeah, I'm just continuing to follow that path because it does feel fulfilling to me.
Yeah. Wow, thank you so much for sharing. I kinda had a sense you might be an introvert. I'm an introvert too, for sure. But I like that even though that is you identify as an introvert, you still much enjoy interacting with customers, right? And building a phenomenal customer experience and really being intentional about that. And I think it continues to speak because I've been having conversations with other fellow introverts as well who are identify as introverts, right? But have a there's a passion for impacting people's lives in a positive way,
Mhm.
in a deep way, in an intentional way. And I think it makes sense that you, as an introvert who is very passionate about your work, you're passionate about the experience of others. So it makes sense to me, and you're very good at it. So thank you for sharing how you came into the world of customer experience and how that can impact the growth of a business. I know you alluded to it a little bit in terms of the way that it unfolded at the startup that you were working at. Uh, and the other thing that I just want to mention before I move on to the next point is you are the second person I talked to that went to UC Berkeley. And that it was my dream school. And I still hold the resentment that they rejected me for undergrad. So
Oh,
so I am so proud of you. I'm so glad that you went to UC Berkeley. What was that experience like, by the way? Just like to live vicariously through you. What was your experience in UC Berkeley?
Well, to be honest, it was hard.
Yeah.
I I come from a you know, a, I don't come from a background that a lot of the students come from. A lot of them went to
Mm-hmm.
really good high schools and have, you know, families that sign them up for all of these extracurricular activities. And I went to a project improvement school. So my high school was like not a great high school. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I started there, I felt so behind because I felt like um, I didn't know, like I hadn't learned how to study and I hadn't learned,
Mm-hmm.
just how rigorous school can be because the school that I had gone to
Mm-hmm.
when I was,
Yeah.
in high school, it wasn't at that same, like it wasn't at that same level of rigor. So it was definitely an
Yeah.
adjustment for me. And I know for a lot of other people um, to go into that kind of environment. It's very competitive. Um,
Yeah.
but it is a,
Yeah.
a really good school. I feel like it taught me a lot. I feel like it really broadened my perspective on the world and um, just gave me a lot more of an understanding of other people that I don't think I would have gotten if I hadn't gone there. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a really beautiful campus. So I really loved being there and getting to walk around and all the trees. But yeah, so I feel like it's kind of my experience is kind of complicated just because I did feel like I struggled there for a bit with adjusting
Mm.
to the rigor of the school.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Uh I had a similar experience going to college also, and I went to an all women's school, and also had gone to a high school that didn't really teach us how to study also. And I remember this one fact that I think it still holds true today, where it's for every hour of classes that you take, you're supposed to study, I think, 7 hours
Mm.
for every hour. So I thought that was insane, and so college in general was hard for me as well. But I think it's always I like to hear the perspectives of other students who went to college, especially college like UC Berkeley or UCLA or like other types of schools that, have this status, right? And I always
Mm.
get curious about what their curriculum is like, what their expectations are of the students. And but I think every student or every person has their own unique experience, and but I can relate to the rigor of or feeling underprepared going into a new academic structure and way of studying, basically. Well, thank you for sharing. Okay, so I want to you I want to talk about customer experience. I'd love to talk about customer experience because uh I'm a small business owner, and I don't know if you feel like in your experience that you a lot of new entrepreneurs or new or small business owners think about customer experience as they begin to build and run their business. I think a common it's common to think about in environments like a startup, as like how you began working with a startup and really building out customer experience. But I'm wondering what your experience and like what you've seen is the trend, or are people talking about customer experience in the entrepreneurship, solopreneurship, small business space? Is that something that you've seen, or it's widely talked about, or what? Any thoughts on that?
Um, to be honest, I don't have a lot of data on that. I
Mm,
haven't done much research on that, so I can't speak to whether or not it's happening very broadly. But
yeah.
what I will say is that it is it's a lot more difficult to make some of the decisions or to apply some of the strategies when you're working with a much smaller customer base because you just don't have the information that you might have if you had hundreds or thousands of customers. So I think it is a challenge that especially when starting out, there isn't a lot of volume of reviews or feedback or even of conversations that you're having with customers. So I think it is challenging to do, and it is challenging to make strategic um, decisions around how to mold your customer experience when you don't have that. So I think for that reason, it might not be as big of a focus. Um, but I do think, especially from just interacting with the community, it seems to me like in one form, it is a really big focus in the sense of like wanting to really take care of your customers or your clients. Like I definitely have seen that. So even if you're not able to use a lot of the same strategies or use a lot of the same data, I have seen that, especially because a small business that's just starting out really wants to do well. There is that big focus on making sure that what you're doing is your best work. And I do think, and this is something that I noticed and that I know happens at a lot of companies as businesses grow, that's really when quality starts to suffer and when the customer experience actually starts to go down. And you have to start being a lot more intentional about it because then companies want to start to, save money in some places, or there's just so much work to go around that it's hard to focus on each individual experience. So I think even if it's not something that you're intentionally focusing on trying to build the best customer journey ever, it's still something that I think by virtue of wanting to succeed and do really well at the beginning of starting a business, that it is happening naturally. It might not be as polished and there might still be some things that you just don't know to focus on. But I think there is that aspect of just the fact that the quality is high because you're really focusing on those customers. And you also have the ability to, because you have less customers, maybe to focus on the ones that you do have and provide them with the best experience that you can.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that because as someone I that talks a lot about strategy, that thinks strategically about the different ways that I'm running my business or projects or things that I'm just doing within my business. Um, I think a lot about quality. And you said quality, thinking about quality within the customer experience for me encompasses the one of the biggest ways that we can improve our quality as a business, but also once even before we have customers but once we have customers, the creating a customer experience that's exceptional can only make your business better. I mean,
Mhm.
I when I was thinking, I mean, I'm a solopreneur, right? And I do everything on my own. I do right. I do podcasts on my own. I I do the coaching. I uh, do all the marketing. I grow my own email list. I do everything. And so uh, as I was thinking about ways to improve my business, not just through what I show, like not just through, my website, which I did invest in as well. By the way, I invested in my website, but not just making quality content, creating better videos. I thought about my customer experience, and I I know that being that I've been in corporate spaces before, I knew what customer experience was, but I think at some point especially in the beginning, it was something that I didn't feel it applied to me just in the moment. But in the very beginning. But then I realized that investing early on in it, in the especially even in analyzing how my customers, even before they become customers, analyzing that journey and what their experience is even before they actually become a customer. I I realized that I really wanted to focus on that aspect of the quality of my services and improving the quality as a strategy, as hopefully being able to receive more clients or whatever goals I was trying to reach. And I realized that it's in the smallest details. It's in like how I not just the coaching, but how do I share resources and what is their onboarding experience like, and what are they seeing even before deciding to become my client. Um, and so I'm wondering, being someone that's an expert in customer experience, that's worked in customer experience, what would you say to someone that is just starting their business? Like, what are some of the ways that we can define customer experience so that we're thinking about it in a way that we're raising the quality of our business and actually being intentional and strategic with our business, the way that we run it? Like, is there a way to think about it from a small business owner perspective, but then that maybe is just starting out or maybe doesn't have the hundreds of clients that, like you said, other companies might have? Is there a way to think about it on a smaller scale?
Yeah. Even if you don't have a lot of different clients or customers, you can still always think about what is that one customer or those few customers, what is that experience that they're having? What is the journey that they're having when they're interacting with your business? And you kind of hit on this when you were talking about the different areas where you're trying to be intentional. The customer journey is the entire span of them interacting with your business. So it's everything from when they discover your brand to them navigating your website, making a purchase, receiving support, them reaching out to you. It's every single time that they're interacting with your business in some way. So you can still take a look at and try to map out what that journey looks like, and then use that to try to define what you want it to be and see where you can improve. So I think it comes back to a combination of empathy and strategy. The empathy piece being able to put yourself in their place and seeing the experience that they're having with your business from their point of view. And again, that's the entire experience, end to end. Emails that they get, what it takes for them to request or receive whatever service or product you're selling, every single thing that, every single place where they're touching your business. And you want to have a firm understanding of what it is like for them, and also the perspective and the story that they're coming to you with. So who are they and what do they want and what have they experienced before? What are their motivations? So that's the empathy piece. And then the strategy piece is being able to evaluate and then use what you find to make improvements. So um, something that you can start using is developing a customer journey map. So outlining each point of that journey. So like I said, that might start with them finding you on social media. That might be the first point on the journey. And then you can do this exercise with yourself by just thinking through what are the different steps that it takes for somebody to work with my business. So maybe the first point there is them finding you on social media. Then the next point is them going on to your website, and then the next point is them scheduling a call with you. So just think through all of the different steps that it takes for them to interact with you, and the different times that you might be sending something to them, and map that out. And for each point, you want to try to identify what actions are they taking at that touch point. So maybe they click on something, they see something, they make a payment. Just what action do they have to actually take at that point? Then what thoughts are they having? So this again comes back to trying to put yourself in their position. So what might they be thinking? For example, when they see your post on social media. Maybe the thought that they're having is, oh, I have a small business and I struggle with these things. Or what are they thinking when they are going to schedule a call with you? Maybe they're thinking that they need to start receiving consulting services. Just what might they be thinking at that point? Next, what emotions are they feeling? So maybe they feel understood, or they feel excited, or they feel frustrated, whatever emotion they might be feeling at that touch point. And then for each touch point, you also want to identify the pain points or the opportunities. So maybe if we're going back to that social media example, they find you and it takes too many clicks for them to move forward from that point and reach your website. That might be an opportunity. Or if they receive some sort of um, resource from you that they purchased, maybe the file isn't a file that's usually compatible with people's systems. So just trying to think through what are the pain points here? What makes it difficult or frustrating? And once you're done mapping all of those different points on the map, you can see where you have opportunities that you can begin to tackle. So you can see which touch points are people probably the most happy, which touch points are people probably having some sort of challenge. And it is difficult to do this when you don't actually have the concrete data that tells you, okay, people said that they're feeling this way, or they left us these comments about how it feels to go through this part of the process. But even without that information, you can use your intuition. Like, you're a highly empathetic person, and I'm going to guess that a lot of your listeners are too. And you have the ability to see something from someone else's perspective and imagine what they might think and how they might feel. It might not be 100% accurate, but you do have that ability. And the key there is just to try to remain objective and try to go into it with the intention of setting aside whatever ideas you have about your business or how you want it to be, and really thinking through, if I was a person not related to this business and I had this interaction, how would this make me feel? What would this make me think? What might I find challenging about this? And once you're able to do that, then you know what that experience is like for your customers, that experience that they have with your business end to end. And you can start to decide, is this what I want it to be like? Or would I like it to be different? Would I like to do things in a different way? Do I want them to go through it through a different path? Do I want to be using a different system? Do I not like the way that this email sends, or the way that the messaging in the email sounds like? You you then have that overall perspective of what that experience is like, and you can start to chip away at making those improvements and making it an actual intentional process. Oh, I can't hear. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, sorry.
That's
I
okay.
sometimes I mute myself just because, like, if you're talking and my dog randomly starts barking. But as you were talking, thank you for sharing all that. I think what I love about the way that you explain or talk about customer experience, Ruby, is that I I can really visualize it. Like, it just makes sense to me. And I mean, it might be also because that to me feels as if I'm a really going into the nitty-gritty of my business, which is very comfortable, right? I enjoy doing the zooming in into a particular areas of my business. I That's a strength of mine. And but it zooming out and looking at the big picture, like, that is something that as an entrepreneur I'm honing in, I'm practicing. But I think if you have a strength in being detail oriented, and that is an area that I see as like a way to improve that quality and to be strategic around how to get new clients and really focus on the the experience of potential clients. And I like when you said touch points, because that illustrates to me all of the different ways that people can potentially be connected to my business and like who I am. And I'm thinking about, oh my God, like because I have a podcast, because I have a YouTube channel, I have a website, I go on LinkedIn, I go on social media. There's all these I realize that I've created so many different touch points that people can find me through.
Mhm.
But then thinking about, well, if they were to find me through YouTube, am I is the experience from there, the journey from there, what I want it to be? What is it easier for, and it's I think that's why I enjoy I reached out to you. And so just for like my listeners who are for anyone listening, I reached out to Ruby to help me through a lot figuring out my customers' journey because I had created so many touch points essentially that I was feeling like, oh, I really need to focus on once people are aware of who I am and are aware of what I do or find me through wherever they find me through, how do they then continue to interact with my content or with whatever they found online? Um, and so we've been working through that and as even then what does it look like for them to onboard? So yeah, like I just wanted to name that because that's just been really helpful, and it's something that especially I think the way that I see customer experience is I think it feels more urgent when it's for service based providers. I don't know if you would if that feels true to you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think so because you're interacting a lot more because you are delivering a service. Like you are actually having some sometimes very extended periods of time where you're interacting with them. Whereas if it's a product, it's there is an experience there. There are definitely things that you want to think about there, but it's a lot more detached. And
yeah,
especially if you are delivering a service like coaching, um, you have hours and hours of interaction there that yeah, I think there is a lot more of a need there to be intentional and really thinking about what those interactions are like.
yeah, and it's so crucial, right? Just because the act of or the services I deliver my services right through like talking through coaching, right? That's an experience in itself, but I think all the other ways outside of me, the ways in which they find me and then book a call, like it sounds it's actually it makes the experience like holistically just in the way that I see it, any potential client's perception of your business improves. In my opinion,
Mhm.
and if a customer experience is has been thought about so intentionally, and the impact of that intentionality and thought is felt and experienced in literally the ways in which they interact with my business and even from finding me on YouTube to looking at my website to downloading a free resource to booking a call to scheduling the call to having the call to then having like all of that, if all of those points are seamless and exceptional for that potential client, I think it can really propel you as a service provider, as a service-based business into a competitive, I would think a very competitive status because uh, you are improving the quality of your business, and it's something that we can't see. You can't really see it. You just have to kind of think about it and hopefully the intentional work that you put into your journey or the customer's journey is then felt and experienced once once that the processes are in place, the systems are in place. So yeah, thank you so much for talking through all of that, Ruby. I I want to just quickly, and I just want to, before we begin to wrap up, is is there a way that you think we can think about customer experience where, depending on the stage of business that we're in, like, when would you say would be the most optimized time to think about customer experience, right? Because I feel like, I mean, I guess we could argue it should be at the very beginning, right? But I'm wondering, like, if you have any thoughts on where in our journey as an entrepreneur and as we begin to build our business, like at what stage of our business do you think would be the best time to think about it or to start thinking about it?
I I would say I would say all of the time, but I think at the beginning
Yeah.
is a really good time. I don't think it needs to be, obviously there's so many things that you need to think about when you're starting a business, so I don't think it needs to be your only priority or your number one top priority because there is so much that you're doing, like you're building out your product or your service and your presence, like there's a lot to do. So I'm not going to say that needs to be your main focus, but I think even if you can, as you're building out, um, your products and services and your website and all of that, if you can at least have it, in the back of your mind that you're that what you're building is going to it's all going to be perceived by somebody else, um, and are trying to think about what would this look like for the person that I'm targeting, um, then it'll help at least with building in a way that um it might not be completely optimized, but it at least is starting to put in the pieces, of having a good experience for them. I don't think it needs to be super polished. I don't think that there's a lot that you're figuring out. You don't even know what your customer journey is going to look like probably until you have a few clients anyway, because things are, you're trying things out and things are changing. So I think as long as while you're figuring out how your pieces are going to go together, you are using that as a point of evaluation. Like when you're after you had your first client and you're going back and thinking, how can I improve this? And you're thinking about um, what it was like from their perspective and maybe not going through the entire customer journey flow because that would be a lot of work if you did that for every single customer. Um, but if you at least use that as a factor for rebuilding or restructuring what you're doing at the beginning, I think that would help with making sure that you are delivering a good experience from the beginning.
As someone that is always thinking about, okay, how can I um, make sure that my clients get the best out of what I'm offering, right? I think about, yes, of course I want to provide the best type of coaching experience that I can provide, uh, but I also want to create an experience that feels so exceptional. Like, wow, like they thought about making sure that, if I have follow-up calls or follow-up emails with my client, that they, like, there's an intentional process behind that, that they're like receiving it, not just from because I told them that they were going to receive it from me, but like everything comes together to create a holistic great experience is what I'm trying to say. And in working with you, that's that's how my brain has been thinking. I think there's always ways that we can improve
Mhm.
our systems and our processes and our efficiencies in our business. But even like I'm not even thinking about it because I know we were going to talk about operational efficiency, right? And like sort of figuring out ways. I know that we've talked about it in just like the work that we've done together around w- things that take up a lot of time for me, right? In the work that I do with clients, and when I'm not coaching with them, what I do outside of our meetings that take up time. And that is important, but I'm also thinking about it, like, if we were to add that plus the fact that I wanna make sure that I follow up and that everything is built and put in place,
Mhm.
and taking that, like, very intentional time in the beginning to really think about this in a way that, um, not just makes my work much easier down the road, especially if I get new clients, right? But it continues to create the experience only continues to get better and better for the client is what excites me about this work. And I'm thinking also about it from this perspective of, like, it's so much more expensive to get a new client than it is to keep a
Mhm.
client and to continue have working with the same client. Like, imagine having clients that love everything about working with you, not just like who you are as a person, but just like the whole entire experience of interacting with your business, that they continue to work with you throughout years. That is so much more cost efficient than like getting a new client, which is just another like benefit of thinking about customer experience, just from like what I've learned from working with you as well. Um, and thinking about this in my journey as an entrepreneur, and the ways that I want to create beautiful, not just exceptional services and how to market, but then like the holistic experience of it all. Um, yeah, I just wanna I just wanna say all that. So you've taught me pretty much all of that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Um,
you. That means a lot. And yeah, I mean, you're so right. It does cost a lot more to acquire a customer than it does to keep one. And
yeah.
that's part of why it is so important. Like one of the a lot of the um or important metrics that some companies will focus on are like retention because like you said, it
Mhm.
costs a lot more to try to get new customers than it does to keep them. And
Yeah.
that is why it's so important to focus on providing them a good experience because if you do, then they're more likely to stay. And if they are really, really happy, then they're more likely to also refer you. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I
Yeah.
I I think it is really important to focus on from the beginning. Even if it's
Yeah.
not as strategic or as you know focused on all of these tools that you have available, thinking about delivering
Yeah.
that best experience, the best if you're a service provider, providing the best service and being really kind and um,
Yeah.
compassionate towards them can go a really long way in these first few interactions that you're having because at the end of the day customers are just people and I think being able to really remember that and think about them in that way as people who have feelings and experiences and needs.
I don't know too much about customer experience, right? Like, I'm not uh I never worked in that arena, but when I first met you, and it's been, I think it's been a year, maybe it's
Mhm.
been about a year
Something
ago that
like
I
that.
first met you, and when you first were talking about it, um I mean, you I had a some basic knowledge around it, but I think that as a small business owner, you think I wasn't sure if it was something important to think about because, like you said, there's so many things that we think about. Like, as new business owners, we're learning so much. We're learning about marketing, we're learning about social media, we're learning how to sell ourselves, and even just the mere idea of getting comfortable with telling people who we are and what we do. Like, even just that, it by itself is a whole other challenge as well. So thinking about the customer experience, for some reason, like, it has this vibe of, it's important, but
Mhm.
you don't know how important it is until you start to take action and learn a little bit more and start to get comfortable around what entrepreneurship brings to you, what are the skills that you have, then you begin to incorporate other areas that you know can really help your business, right? But you don't know how until you get to that point. And learning about customer experience from you, that's been my journey with it. Because yeah, like you said, maybe I don't have hundreds of clients. I have a few clients that like come in and out throughout the year, right? But even if I don't have hundreds of clients and all of this data to work with, I have touch points and I have an idea of what my clients could potentially be feeling and thinking about at this point in their interaction with me or at this point. And so I think I think customer experience is the concept, but really it's just being empathetic.
Mhm.
It's being not just empathetic, but being people oriented, providing value. I talk a lot about value based strategy and providing value in your strategy. And it's really about creating that value for your customers and your clients and delivering it through the experience of engaging with your business. It's just one way of improving that quality or thinking about quality and bringing that into the overall strategy of your business and your up and because like I said, I invested in a website. I invested in quality photos and really thinking about my programs. And then I was like, I think I should think about my customer experience. I want my customers not just to perceive my brand as a brand to trust, but now they can trust me through their interactions engaging with my content and my business. And so um, that's the way that I thought about it and how I bring it into my overall business strategy for me. And so I'm really glad that I'm working with you, Ruby, because you're really good at making me understand it from a different lens and like really looking at it and analyzing different parts of the customer journey that I could really improve on. But then also making my life easier by figuring out ways to save me time, but still continue to deliver quality service and a quality experience. So I'm just grateful to you for working with me on this, and I hope other people also they start thinking about customer experience. Would you say that would you say that other people should be thinking about customer experience or can really start thinking about it as an element or a way that they can include in their overall business strategy?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think without a doubt, it's something that you should always be thinking about because without customers, you don't really have a business. Like you need customers to have a business. And um, at the end of the day, they're in the deciding position. Like they get to decide if they're going to choose you and your business. So making sure that
Yeah.
you are giving them a good experience, giving them a reason to come back. Um,
Yeah.
that should be
Yes.
a big focus because
Yeah.
otherwise you're losing customers, you are maybe getting a bad reputation. So it's really important to be focusing on that. Um,
Yeah.
and I think if I had one thing that I would say is probably the lowest lift thing that you can do as a small business, it's really just leading with empathy and leading with
Mhm.
um, compassion, thinking about your customers as people with lives. Um, and remembering that you're really only getting a small snippet of their day and they're
Mhm.
coming to you with this entire world and life and experience outside of that. So just remembering that, and remembering that the experience that they have with you could be impacted by all of these different things going on that have nothing to do with you. I know it's a lot of pressure to think about the fact that they are coming to you with, potentially having had a horrible day. Um, but I think it's actually really empowering, because for me, the way that I like to see it is that it's an opportunity to make their day better. Like, you could have that
Mm,
impact on them, because
mm,
how many times have you been having a really bad day, and then you interacted with a service employee and they were really nice and really helpful and it just made you happy? Like, I've had a lot of those
mhm.
experiences. Or I interacted with the
Yeah,
company and they did something, and it was just a really delightful experience that I had on their website, and that made me feel better, because it's like, wow, this thing went well. I'm having a hard day, but this thing went well and it was, an enjoyable experience. So
yeah,
if you can try to just think about them in that way and feel empowered by your ability to have that impact on them, I think it'll really help guide you in the way that you choose to shape that experience that they're having with your business.
yeah. Thank you for saying that. It reminds me of, I got reminded of, so some people, I actually don't share this a lot, but I actually manage an Airbnb
Mhm.
with, my aunt, and, customer experience plays a huge role when I
Mhm.
think about, like, just that experience and the ways in which they go into Airbnb. Like, thinking about then that entire journey, I'm realizing, like, if I were to analyze the entire customer experience of a Airbnb
Mhm.
customer, like, that is, it's so valuable. And for me, I manage this Airbnb, and it's just a side thing that I do with my aunt. It's like side money actually, which helps. But um, just being extremely responsive and friendly with them helps tremendously. It just like it helps so much. But that, and it just reminds me of that, because no matter how, like, other parts of a person's day could be, you know, there could be terrible parts of their day, and then they interact with you, or something went wrong in the Airbnb and they like tell you,
Mhm.
and you like provide a really pleasant response and like are very considerate. That just alleviates that customer's unpleasantness, and it just makes everything better. And I think that I just thought about that randomly, but yes, it's so important to think about your customers, think about your clients, and like you said, I love what you said about, even if if we could think about it at like the simplest level, is just being empathetic and putting yourself in your client's shoes. Thank you so much, Ruby, for sharing everything that you shared with us today. And if we wanted to, if to get in touch with you, talk more about customer experience, learn more about customer experience, where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, thank you for having me. You can find me on LinkedIn. So I'm on linkedin.com/in/Ruby dash Mora. And then Blueprint CX is also on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/company/blueprint dash CX. Um, yeah, my journey has been pretty slow to start, so I don't quite have a website yet, but uh, it'll be there when I'm ready to launch that. I'm not quite at that stage yet of my journey.
But this is just proof that you don't need a website because you have clients. I'm your client, and you have other clients. So, you're it's I'm sure that it would probably help, but you're so good at it that when I thought about it, I immediately thought of you. And so I'm glad and so happy that I was connected with you and that we can continue working, because so for all anybody, like, if you've interacted with or onboarded into my programs or have interacted with any of my email lists, for example, or bought from me, know that the experience is changing, and it's because of the work that I'm doing with Ruby. So I'm excited to continue working with you.
Thanks. I'm excited to continue working with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Be a Boss Coaching podcast. To connect with me and the other featured guests of this podcast, remember to come over to the show notes and visit us at beabosscoaching.com. Remember that you don't have to do this alone. If you have any self-doubt or uncertainties, there's so many places and communities and resources out there for you to tap into. You just need to take action. I can't wait to meet you, and I'll see you in the next episode.